Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker Betting Show. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Holding as we look ahead to the racing at Sandown on Saturday. Normally it would be a Tingle Creek preview, but this time around, because we are lucky enough to also have the fighting fifth after Newcastle was called off last weekend, and we'll also cast a glance at some of the racing at Aintree as well. Andy, firstly, how are you, as ever?
Yeah, just talking off air, the last two horses I put up have both gone lame, so my health and temper is a little bit on the wane, but anyway, that's the way it goes sometimes. You just have to take the rough with the smooth. Reasonable weekend, so not all doom and gloom, but yeah, it's just annoying, particularly when you get one going lame on the flat. I mean, that's just unforeseen, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, every horse I back finishes second or third. So, yes.
At least it was a finishing.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, losing money when you're all the horses you're backing running well is frustrating. Anyway, we could sit here all day, Andy, and moan and groan, but let's look ahead and try and make things better. Firstly, let's talk about the weather, because obviously the rain at the moment around the country is causing havoc with jumps racing. I am playing golf tomorrow, not far from Sandown, and no, the weather forecast is looking good. So okay. I am more positive for Saturday at Sandown. How is it looking from your face? Scares me there. I was planning on going out wearing a t-shirt.
I've just gone and walked the dog, and yeah, if I'd have known how bad it was, I would have called it off. I would have definitely been, it wouldn't have needed a precautionary inspection. It would have just been straight off.
Straight off.
That's the worst I've ever known it round by us. I mean, the fields are absolutely like lakes. So we've had plenty of it. But yeah, there are certain parts of the country that are not going to get it worse than others. I mean, Haydock just up the road from me, about an hour, that's gone. Can't see Weatherby going. Can't see Weatherby lasting. So if we do get Sandown and Aintree on, yes, it will be a pleasant surprise and good for racing that we've got something. But I think it's going to be fairly unpleasant viewing, watching horses slog through the mud, because I can't see it being anything other than heavy at both tracks.
Yeah, well, it's fingers crossed that things go ahead as planned on Saturday. As I said, the weather down south where I am, I'm in London, but looking around here, it looks dry on Friday, but overnight, Friday night, and then Saturday morning looks pretty horrific. So I think it's going to be a case of seeing how we go come Saturday, and probably accepting that around the country where there is racing, it would probably be fairly soft ground if we do get it at all. But we'll go through the card on Saturday where we've got prices. We have got prices in the opener, Andy. A couple of firms are out, but it's a pretty trappy affair. It doesn't look great for betting purposes, but we'll just quickly touch on these races as we go through. Wilmot is the 1-2 favourite in the opener. Booster Bob 3-1. Helm Vine is 17-2, and Choose a Copper is 11-1. These are all best prices on the Oddschecker app, where you can get the best prices. And bookie offers free bets and the best tipsters in the game straight to the app every morning of racing, and also the place terms as well. You can check them on there. Run in this novice hurdle listed race over 2 miles, Andy. Anything stand out at these early prices?
I think by and large, George, I think we'll get this in before we talk about the whole card in general. It suggests that it is very much one for the purists, this card. Even myself, who can come up with bets out of nowhere, are really struggling in some of the races. I think actually Wilmot, as regards a 2-1 shot, is fairly solid, because he was very, very impressive on the eye and on the numbers when he won at Newbury. And the form of his race has already worked out well. I've just been sort of like monitoring how several have ran out of that Newbury race, which he won by 13 lengths. And I did notice that the horse called Celtic Ned was second to Paraday the other day at Lingfield, and I think that Paraday is a very smart recruit. And King William Rufus actually ties in with one of Nicky Henderson's, which leads me to believe that the betting is all wrong for the Supreme Novices regards Wilmot and Jericho de Reponnet, who beat King William Rufus by only 3.5 lengths at the Berkshire track the other day, whereas Wilmot beat him by 36 lengths, no less. So it was a little bit of a surprise to me to see a massive overreaction the other day to Jericho de Reponet's performance at Newbury, when he won okay, but he certainly didn't create the impression that Wilmot did. And yet Wilmot's double the price for the Supreme Novices at this very stage than his stable companion. I actually think Wilmot's the better horse of the two. I don't know what the the sort of vibes are in the yard, or what Nico said to Nicky. But just visually and like I say, collateral form and what they've done so far, I think World Mountain's a better horse than the other horse. So hopefully that'll correct itself in the course of time. And I think he'll win on Saturday, and his odds will shorten as well for the Super 8.
Currently 8 to 1, was it? I just saw. No, 12 to 1, best price for the Supreme. That's a Bet365, William Hill, 888 Sport, BetMGM, and a couple of other firms as well. Best price there for Will Mount. So that could be the way to play the opener if you want an interest. Back Will Mount now and then hope for that price to tumble for the Supreme. No prices in the 1205. On to the Potence Handicap Hurdle, where Chantry House is the 5-2 favourite ahead of Operation Manor at 3 to 1. Equinus 5 to 1, Hititi 11 to 2, Brinkley 13 to 2, Dolphin Square 10 to 1, Sherlock Jack is 12 to 1, and on the blind side we've got at 16 to 1. Andy, this is in the 1240. What do you make of this at this stage? Not often, I guess, that you get a Cheltenham Festival winner popping up in a race like this, in a handicap at a 5 to 2 off a fairly lofty mark of 147. Sure to be popular with punters, but do you think Chantry House represents value at the price?
Yes and no. I think his run behind Buddy One suggested that he still retains all of his ability. You forget that he's only 9. He seems to have been around forever.
Yeah.
As you said, that Cheltenham Festival win is a little while back now. Whether he's totally effective nowadays on genuine heavy ground, because I think it will be heavy come Saturday, he's open to question. Just at the prices, I'd probably overlook him. I'd respect Operation Manor because he has won over the track before, and he's the kind of improving up young horse that I don't think the handicap has necessarily caught up with just yet. I'd probably, if I was going to have a bet out of the two, I'd be backing him over Chantry House. But looking at the price in front of me now, and hopefully all the 8 runners go to post, I think Brinkley's a reasonable each way alternative to the front 2 in the market. He chased down the Imposter the other day at Uttoxeter. Now, I don't know if you've been following the progress of the Imposter, but he's won his last 4 races for Nigel Hawke, and he's a very, very tough so-and-so to get past. And I think Brinkley found that to his cost the other day. He came there looking as though he was going to beat the Imposter, but once again, the Imposter turned another rival away. So I certainly don't think there was any shame in getting beat by that strong stayer at the trip. But Brinkley, that was a good run for his first run of the season. Sure to be stripping fitter 13 days after. The key to him is soft or heavy ground. He absolutely adores soft ground. So he won't mind ploughing his way through what's likely to be a pretty unsatisfactory surface. So he strikes me with the dead 8 runners at this moment in time as being the each way play.
Brinkley 13 to 2. Only Hills and 888 out at prices as it stands at the moment. Get into the fighting fifth now, Andy, and Constitution Hills return to the track. 2 to 9 Constitution Hill is, of course, now, as we know, staying over hurdles for this campaign and maybe longer. Traded at 7 to 2 on the exchange at one point yesterday, as rumours swirled that he wouldn't be taking up this engagement. But at the moment, the plan seems to be for Constitution Hill to run, and it's 2 to 9 to do so. Now, Love Envoy is 7 to 1 second favourite. You Wear It Well 14 to 1. Shishkin, after of course refusing to run the other week, 16 to 1. Goshen 40 to 1, and Not So Sleepy 50 to 1. I mean, if it is really testing ground, do you think Nicky will keep Constitution Hill in?
You just never know with Nicky what he's thinking. He tends to sort of wrap them in cotton wool a little bit. Even a horse like this, even though he's staring down a barrel of a 2 to 9 shot, I don't think the market will have any influence on whether Nicky runs or not. He'll just want to do what's best by the horse, i.e. run him on the best surface that's not going to rip the guts out of him. His alternative is a month away, and it's just all about the programme, isn't it, with Nicky? Nicky's very much a stickler for tradition and running in the races at the right time of the year, like he's done with his previous, like going back to the good old days, the bygone era of see you then, when he used to either just give him one run or even no runs at all, and just basically training for the festival because he knew he was a very fragile horse. And not suggested Constitution Hill is, but he'll only want to be giving him maybe 1 or 2 runs prior to the festival. Should he not go here, then I think the Christmas hurdle will be very much in his range. That would seem the more logical race of the two. Flat track, better ground, similar stroke, weaker competition. This race is now Newcastle's gone. He's very much an afterthought, isn't it? So he'll leave it until the last minute. I'd imagine he'll leave it till Saturday morning and then take a view. It'd be great for racing if he ran. Lovely for Sandown to see him. But like I say, it's just not a betting race until you know what Constitution Hill's doing. If he doesn't run, then the whole race becomes a totally different entity. The way the race is run, the way that jockeys will approach this race, they'll be looking at thinking, well, I'm riding for a 2nd or 3rd place position. Whereas if Constitution Hill doesn't run, then they can go a little bit more gung ho. So it's very difficult for me to make an assessment on a judgment call on this race now, not knowing what Constitution Hill's going to do.
Yeah, impossible, as you say, without all the knowledge at hand to make a pick here. But as it stands right now, Constitution Hill, unsurprisingly, the 2-9 favourite. I'm sure this will change quickly as things go on. I mean,
if he doesn't run, let's play devil's advocate and say he doesn't run.
Well, should I take you through the without market as it is now?
So that'll give us an idea of how they might bet without Constitution in the race.
So Love Envoy is 11 to 10 favourite. You Wear It Well and Shishkin both 7 to 2. Not So Sleepy 9 to 1 and Goshen 9 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, at those prices there you've just said about, I think 7 to 2 for You Wear It Well is a perfectly viable option against the Fav. She's a classy mare. I mean, she's won a Grade 1. Let's not forget. Also a Grade 2, beg your pardon, at the festival. And it was a good mares race last year. They had all the best mares there. They all lined up. She was good enough to win over 2 miles first time out. Beat Lucia, who ran really well in the Great Wood Hurdle, didn't he? If you recall, at Cheltenham a couple of weeks ago. But the form is pretty solid. It's proven that she can handle soft ground over 2 miles, and more importantly, she's won at the track. When she won that Grade 2 novices last season, she was really good from the front. And with the yard obviously firing on all cylinders as well, Jamie Snowden and Gavin Sheehan buoyed from their victory in the Old Hennessy last week. There's a lot to like about You Wear It Well's chances to perhaps finish second if the favourite doesn't turn up. And if the favourite doesn't turn up, then she could be getting Grade 1 status next to her name.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. But yeah, the price is 7 to 2 for You Wear It Well. The one that Andy would plump for at the current prices, and we'll have to see how it develops on Saturday. On to the Henry VIII Novice Chase. And JPR1, a horse that you were very keen to get on side earlier in the campaign, of course unseated at the last when clear last time out. Currently 15 to 8 favourite for this one. Colonel Harry is 4 to 1 alongside ICO, also 14 to 1. Unexpected Party is 5 to 1. Petit Tonnerre is 12 to 1. And Le Patron is 20 to 1. So 6 runners here. Should find out a fair bit about these, Andy, here. But JPR1, presumably not much to put you off, despite not getting around or not completing last time.
No, it was a real sick no. I mean, you have to have a backside or a skin like a rhino, don't you, in this game? Because if you're not made of sort of stern stuff, it can drive you around the twist. JPR1 was a horse I flagged up as a horse to follow, and then, within a split second, me thinking, I've called him right when he was well clear at Cheltenham, going down to the last. Within a split second, your hopes and dreams are dashed. I don't think it was his fault either. It was just one of those kind of like over jump falls where the momentum got him on the floor more than anything else, similar to Galopin de Champs when he fell in the Turners 2 years back. But the big news headline out of that race was that JPR1 is as good as what that Newton Abbott form suggested he would be. So there's a crumb of comfort in the fact that you were right. Okay, you didn't get the monetary return, but your sort of views are backed up. I think he'll beat ICO again. There's no real reason why he wouldn't. I think the main danger might stem from the top one, Colonel Harry. Again, from a yard that, as I've reiterated in the previous race, are on fire at the moment. He's won at Sandown over hurdles, beat a good horse that day when he did win. And he was really good on his fencing debut the other day. He jumped, he travelled. He got the better of Out the Office, who's not no back number. And again, similar to the favourite, he can operate well over 2 miles on soft or heavy ground. So I think it's between those two, JPR1 and Colonel Harry. A lot depends on which one gets in the better rhythm, which is, the $64,000 question. Only time will tell how that pans out. But you'd imagine that JPL want to be given a positive ride from the front, and Sandown does complement the horses that jump well. Those railway fences, the 7 in the back, is tailor-made really for JPL want to take your lengths out of his rivals. And if he gets to the pond fence 3 out, having not expended as much energy as the others over that line of fences down the back, then I'd imagine he might be good enough. So let's hope he gets back on track. He deserves to be talked about as an Arkle contender because of his jumping and the way he goes about his work. So let's hope he does make amends, because he certainly deserves to.
JPL won 15-8 with Bet UK, BetMGM, and 888 Sport, with Colonel Harry providing the stiffest competition. And he thinks is 4-1. The 225 now, the handicap hurdle over 2 miles, an Impose Trois is the 5-2 favourite ahead of Spirit Danu at 7-1. Punta de l'Est also 7-1. Buxy de Spear is 15-2. Arcube is 8-1. Gilla Joan is 12-1. 16-1 bar those. And the 12 runners here, so a bit more flesh on the bone. Sky Bet are going 5 places as it stands. I'm guessing this is one where you find it a bit easier to get a selection.
Yeah, I think there's several ways of looking at this race. A lot will go down the route of just going with the flaming obvious, and that's Impose Trois, who was very impressive, wasn't it, Sandown? I must admit, it was a difficult one to assess going into Cheltenham, and you come out of that thinking, yeah, he's very well handicapped. He's up to now 1-3-1. The only reservation you'd have about him, and again, we are sort of born your census with the ground, he gets to run on anything worse than soft. And Sandown is a proper like specialist track where the sloggers tend to win rather than the sexy, smooth travellers. And he does look as though he falls into that category, doesn't he? The way he went through that Cheltenham race. The form as it stands looks really good. The 10th horse of Shark Hands won this afternoon at Clonmel, and he got beat, 20 odd lengths. So I think if this was on good, genuine good ground, let's say, or good to soft ground, he'd be a good solid 5-2 poke, because I think he'd have the class and the ability to win it. But it definitely brings other horses into the equation, such as Punta del Este, who wants soft ground. The bottom one, Busquets de Perez from the French provinces. Arcube, who's proving himself at Sandown twice over. He won on soft to heavy ground the other day, and I'm not necessarily sure connectors thought he'd handle it as well as he did, but he did. And that's the second time he's run well at the Esher venue. But the one I'm going to fall down on the side of, and I'm going to stick my neck out with a big price one here, is Red Rookie. Now, this fella's rather lost his way a little bit, George, in recent times, over fences. I just think he's become a little bit stale, jumping the larger obstacles. He hasn't been the horse that he was perhaps a year ago when he was talked in sort of like glowing terms as perhaps being an Arkle horse or even a Grand Annual horse. That didn't really materialise. But if you look at some of his hurdle form in isolation, it reads quite well. And I went back and looked at a couple of his runs on soft to heavy ground, and he's got an amazing record when the ground's heavy. He won Exeter first time off the bat in a bumper. He then followed up under a penalty at Uttoxeter when it was heavy. He's hurdling his second run over hurdles at Sandown when it was heavy. He bolted up, and his last positive run, if you like, over fences was back in March of this year. And again, that was on heavy ground. So once he gets his conditions, Red Rookie, he's a fairly useful tool, and he's dropped to a mark of 133. He goes back to Sandown, where he's 1-for-1 at the track, and he's 16-1 with Coral Stroke Ladbroke. So I think they've dropped a clanger with that. I think he'll be a single figure price Saturday. So Red Rookie is definitely a decent value bet in that 225.
Red Rookie 16-1, as you say, with Coral and Ladbrokes, 14-1 with Hills. All of those 4 places. If you want the 5 places, you can go to Sky Bet and get 10-1. So double figure prices across the board now, but maybe not to come Saturday afternoon. We now get to the main race on the card. Well, I mean, normally the main race on the card when it is the only, when it doesn't have the fighting fit to contend with, but still, the major race on the day, the Tingle Creek, and John Bon is the 3-on favourite, having demolished Edwardstone last time out back in November. Edwardstone is 6-1. Boot Hill is 14-1. Haddix de Zobo is 16-1, and Nube Negra 25-1. Now, it's a sign of where John Bon is now, isn't it, Andy? When you look at it's a small field, but it's not a field short of quality whatsoever. Yet you're seeing, I mean, there's 2 to 9 out there with Betfair and Paddy Power about John Bon.
Yeah, it's taken me a while to come around to the fact that John Bon is a top class horse over 2 miles. We always thought that perhaps, with El Fabiolo around, he might have to stretch out to 2.5. But since he got beat by El Fabiolo at Cheltenham, I think he's improved immeasurably when he won at Aintree last year. And then he rounded off his season at Sandown. And in the Becher Chase the other day back at Cheltenham, he was absolutely electric, wasn't he? He couldn't wait for the next fence. He was like pricking his ears. He was attacking his obstacles, running with loads of verve and enthusiasm. They can ride him chilly in behind the pace. If nothing wants to make the run in, he can go off in front himself. He's just uncomplicated. He's just a very, very high-class, fast two-miler. I think he'll probably take a lead behind Head Exeter Zabo here. He doesn't necessarily need to lead. I think it'll just be a question of whether Nico de Boinville can sort of negotiate the obstacles. That should be as simple as that. But there is a fight on for second, and I think that match between Edwardstone and Boot Hill to fill in that space might well go to Harry Fry's horse, because, well, Edwardstone is perhaps not improving anymore. I still think there's a bit more mileage left in Boot Hill. He was a bit fortuitous to win the other day when Saint Segala horse I put up fell at the last of Ascot, but he's still proven that he's edging towards top class in his own right. And don't forget, he chased home John Bon here last season when he met him. So he's chased home Nicky Henderson's horse before, and I think he's improved in the interim. So he might well do again. So without the favourite again, that's the only thing I've really put up as a value alternative to the obvious is to put up Boot Hill without the fav.
Boot Hill 5-2. That's William Hill. They've already got a market out for without John Bon market. And Boot Hill 5-2. Edwardstone is 5-4 in that market. Final race on the card at Sandown before we pop over to Aintree, and Fontaine Colon is the 3-1 favourite in the handicap chase over 3.5 miles. Beauport and Fontaine Colon are joint 3-1 favourites. Broken Halo 8-1, Certainly Red 8-1, Truckers Lodge 10-1, Cyclop 11-1, Fortescue 12-1, 18-1 Bardos. Andy?
Yeah, I mean, if you took away the title, you'd almost swear blind that this was one of those veterans chases. A lot of these have been around for quite a while. But then you look at Beauport, you think, well, he's only 7, even though that beggars belief. He seems to have been going for quite a bit. 3-1's plenty skinny enough for him. Fontaine Colon's had a wind operation since we last saw him. He's got a very good record fresh. I think he was due to run at Haydock last week, his ultimate target, first time out, but that meeting didn't survive, so he's coming here instead. Anything Venetia runs in a staying chase, you'd certainly respect him of late, any of her runners of late, sorry. But I do think Certainly Red is worthy of a mention. He was a massive improver for Lydia Richards last season, winning, I think he won 3 off the reel. And he had a nice little pipe opening the other day in a decent race at Wincanton, what do they call it, the Badger Beer. I think the key to him is softish ground, which he's got. So I thought 8-1 for him is not a bad price. At a track where he's gone well before, he's an out-and-out copper bottom stayer. He'll just keep galloping. And if I was going to offer something up, whether I would back him or not at this stage, I don't know. But putting something up at on a Thursday when I've just got the sort of like prices in front of me, and I think there'll be worse bets than him in the race.
Yeah, 8-1 pretty much across the board there. Over to Aintree, and the 12.55 is the first race we can look at here, which is the listed Mares Chase. I think there's the 4 races on the card. We've got prices for. Zambella is the 11-8 favourite, had a Pink Legend at 6-4. Bit of a match bet here with 5 runners. Burrows Diamond is 10-1. La Renommée is 14s alongside Sacre-Cœur, also 14-1. But yeah, Zambella, marginal favourite here. Andy, do you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I like the fact that she has got a good record fresh. She's brilliant in these like mares chase races where the big guns don't turn up, i.e. she's not in the grade 2 or grade 1 company, but at listed level, she's fairly unbeatable. And the yard are just absolutely flying at the moment. I'm not saying Venetia's aren't, so if you've got Pink Legend on your side, and many have, you have got that obviously in your favour. But Zambella's won around this track as well. You have to go back. I think she won this race 2 years ago. I think she ran in it last year. So this has clearly been a well thought out plan. So yeah, it does look between the two, as you say, and I would go with Zambella on this occasion for all the reasons I've outlined.
On to the 205 now, which is the Becher Handicap Chase, where Ashtown Lad is the 4-1 favourite ahead of Percussion at 6-1. The Big Breakaway 8-1. Celebra Dalen is 10-1. Highland Hunter, the one that's being backed, but still 11-1. But a Sea of Blue on oddschecker grids. Cocoa Beach 12-1, 14-1 bar. Andy.
Yeah, we cast our mind back 12 months ago, and Ashtown Lad was beating Percussion, and lo and behold, both the two horses are taking each other on again. But I think the roles will be reversed this time. I think Percussion might just come out on top, largely due to the fact that he ran really eye-catchingly well here over the 2 mile 5 beyond jet skill here last time, which struck me as being a little bit of a pipe opener. But the key to him more predominantly is the ground. Last year it was good to soft. I think it is going to be soft, straight, heavy, maybe on Saturday, looking at the rain that we've had around here. I think Liverpool area have had quite a bit of it in the last 24-48 hours. And that'll definitely suit Laura Mongan's horse better. Well, he's only got 10 stone 2 here as well. So, and I'm not normally a weights and measures man, but even I would freely admit that carrying sort of just over 10 stone on heavy ground is certainly going to help. And he looks as though he's had his preparations teed up, especially for this. So, yeah, no hesitation putting Percussion forward at 6-1. I think it's a really good each way bet.
Andy banging the Percussion drum. 6-1 is there with William Hill, who are also 5 places. So it makes the each way bet even tastier. Two more races we're going to look at. We'll do the juvenile hurdle first, which I guess could be interesting from a time figures stance, with a couple of these only having 1 or 2 races under their belt, but not the case for Max of Stars. The favourite here for Ollie Pears is the 3-1 favourite. Liari is a 7-2. Lefovre also 7-2. Eagle Prince 10-1. Latin Verse 12-1. Palio 14-1. 16-1 bar. Andy, which of these catches the eye and looks good on the clock?
Yeah, I mean, Max of Stars is probably the clock horse, but he's, in all fairness to him, he is a bit of a summer jumping type that's kind of like getting away with it. And he bumped into a good mare last week of Gordon Elliott's that came over. And yeah, Max of Stars had been kind of like, had his limitations exposed last week. So whether he'd want to have another hard race after a hard race last week is open to question. The ground would be a concern for him. Whereas it shouldn't be a concern for Liari, who very much heads my pecking order of those in behind Max of Stars based on the numbers. He didn't do a flash time at Wincanton, but there was lots to like the way he got the job done. He travelled nicely, he jumped well, he stayed on well. He got the better of the horse of Jane Williams. The pair pulled well clear. I just liked his attitude, and I think that's going to be what it'll boil down to over the weekend. Yes, you have to have plenty of ability, but you've got to want to win as well. And having sort of slogged his way through pretty testing ground at Wincanton, I'd fancy him to do so again at Aintree on Saturday. And of course, he comes from the French provinces as well, and they're used to racing on bad, sloppy ground. So he'd have plenty in his favour there, Liari, in that 2-4-2.
Liari, the one catch Andy's eye, 7-2, best price. That's with most firms up on oddschecker. Skybet going 4 places as well if you want the extra place. And finally, Andy, the 3:15 is the handicap hurdle over 2.5 miles. Sonny Gino is the 9-2 favourite ahead of Basher's Reflection at 5-1. Vicky Vale 11-2. Benson 8-1. Home St George 10-1. 14-1. Chancitude 16-1. Bar those.
Yeah, I think we've got the right favourite here. Sonny Gino ran a Herculean race in the Greatwood. He was the only horse that actually showed up prominently in the final analysis, having raced wide. Normally, the outside of the track of that Paddy Power meeting is the place to be. It certainly has been over the last 4 or 5 years. But the inside track the last meeting was very much the place to be. And the first 3 home all went around the inside, including the winner, Iberico Lord. And Son and Gino, as I said, came out best of those at race wide. So I think you've got to give him extra credit for that. The general consensus as well was that stepping up in triple definitely suit him. So stepping him up to 2.5 miles here seems the right thing to do. So I probably wouldn't disagree with the market there, to be perfectly honest. Of the others, the horse that won at Wincanton, sorry, not Wincanton, Weatherby the other day, Basher's Reflection. I like the way he's going. The key to him, he's got a really good cruising speed. And I like horses that travel really well on soft or heavy ground because it gives them a chance to get down to the business end without expending too much energy. So he would be the other one that I'd speak favourably of here. You know, I do think Sonagino's got a touch of class that the others haven't. I don't think, put it this way, I don't think any of those would have finished fourth in the Greatwood. I think most people have come to that conclusion. So he looks the right one in that final race.
Sonagino 9-2. That is standout best price of William Hill, as short as 130 elsewhere. Thank you very much, Andy, as ever, for taking the time to talk us through your thoughts ahead of the weekend's racing. Hopefully it all goes ahead. Hopefully Constitution Hill stays in as well, and we can see the next chapter in what is turning out to be an incredible career so far. That's Constitution Hill, not you, Andy, but I mean the same by you too.
My career's going down like that, and his is going up like that.
Absolutely not. We're back again next week, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Make sure you subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel, where you can find all oddschecker betting shows and Racing Weekly up there as well as plenty more preview content over the course of the jumps season. Make sure you download the oddschecker app so you can see the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and Andy's tips straight to the app every morning of racing. Enjoy the racing this weekend, and please do ensure that you are gambling responsibly.